Hi, I'm Michael Richardson. I provide coaching and consulting support to enterprise leadership concerned with digital solution delivery and operating model transformations. I help the enterprise obtain consistency and sustainability in delivery processes and practices. I can help with continued improvements where previous transformation work needs to be refreshed or otherwise revisited to provide for business expectations. If your business needs an operating model with sustainable flow and agility, let's talk. The Classification-aware Job Ranking, or CAJR model, is a model I developed for prioritizing jobs using a job ranking score determined by a classification tier and then applying an offset within that tier that is calculated by dividing the need to do by the effort to do. The classification-aware job ranking model may be used to prioritize work or jobs that have an inherent tiering of priority levels, such as feature implementation for tiered customers like diamond, gold, and bronze levels, responses to customer requests for API enhancements when you have tiered support levels, initiatives for enterprises, mid-market, or small and medium businesses. In a flow-based enterprise solution delivery system, a variety of work types have to be considered with budget and capacity allocations applied to establish guardrails that ensure that no one work type is ignored. For example, it is important to consider infrastructure, maintenance, and technical debt in addition to the constant desire for product enhancements. In a world where everything feels important and we constantly feel overwhelmed trying to stay on top of it all, it's crucial to ruthlessly prioritize tasks and obligations based on their true level of benefit to the enterprise. We need models to help us avoid the tyranny of the urgent. Using a job prioritization model that has sufficient fidelity, like the CAJR model, and considers typical prioritization factors, enables you to objectively say no, or at least not yet, to those jobs with a lower calculated ranking score. Using a model-based calculation helps to remove the subjectivity from the conversation, and the fidelity of the ranking scores helps to avoid the constraint of a limited set of priority options like high, medium, and low, where you often end up with too many defects having a high priority. Weighted shortest job first, as popularized by SAFe, is often used to prioritize work for the best economic outcomes. For most jobs, you can consider business value, risk reduction, or opportunity enablement along with the time criticality to prioritize one job against another. However, as you have a variety of work types or job classes, there may be valid reasons for a job with a lower cost of delay and longer duration needed for implementation to be prioritized over other jobs with a higher cost of delay and shorter implementation durations. The Classification-aware Job Ranking CAJR model helps in this overlapping priority area while still supporting the intent of economic benefit. The numeric values used to capture the class tiering and the components that are used to capture the need to do and the effort to do are carefully considered to allow for a desired amount of ranking score range and overlap between the tiers. The amount of overlap in the job ranking score between each class is an important characteristic of the CAJR model. This overlap helps to ensure that highly beneficial jobs that require a bit of effort from a lower class are not always deferred or ranked lower than less beneficial, easy-to-do work from higher classes. It is this overlap that provides for a single backlog rather than separate class-based backlogs. The job ranking score distribution and overlap needs to be analyzed whenever values used for the calculation are revised. Consider sticking with those that are provided as default in the model until you have a chance to understand the model characteristics more fully. While recognizing tiers imply a priority, we do have to consider balance for the jobs. Allowing one class or pure economics to dominate the ranking score is likely to lead to undesirable outcomes for the business. Another consideration is that the components of WSDIF don't resonate well for some job types or classes of work. For example, trying to use WSDIF to prioritize one defect against another is awkward because the primary components of the cost of delay don't resonate well with the conversation of defects. It is more natural to consider the number of people impacted, the degree of that impact, and the criticality or pressure for resolving that defect. The CAJR model has a specific implementation referred to as the Classification-aware Defect Ranking, or CDR, model with a defect ranking score. The CDR model is used to prioritize defects to obtain the most beneficial outcome possible for the enterprise, customers, and internal stakeholders with the capacity that has been allocated for resolving defects. In the CDR model, the need to do is rephrased as the need to resolve, and the effort to do is rephrased as the effort to resolve in order to calculate the defect ranking score. The need to resolve is a measure of the consequence that exists if a defect remains in the solution, and the effort to resolve is the time it takes to remove the defect from the solution. The time it takes to remove a defect is hard to determine because it depends on which team will work on the defect and their knowledge of the solution's architecture, logic, and code. To make things easier, we estimate the effort to resolve using the general understanding of the solution as an inverse proxy for the effort to resolve. On average, defects take less time to resolve when the team has a high level of understanding around the solution's use, design, logic, and code base. Defects typically take longer to resolve when a team has very little understanding of these factors and has to explore and learn about the solution itself before they are even able to begin considering the causes and ways to resolve the defect. Defects that have the highest defect ranking score are those that can potentially deliver the greatest benefit in the shortest amount of time. Typically, less effort aligns with less time. Teams should work to resolve those defects, providing better benefit and customer satisfaction first, using the CDR model defect ranking score to prioritize defects within the backlog. Use the CDR model defect ranking score to continuously prioritize defects in the product backlog because some defects might have a due date, and the pressure to resolve changes with time. Working collaboratively with customer service and other stakeholders, product management manages the backlog and the prioritization process. When first adopting the CDR model, a defect prioritization workshop is suggested. In the workshop, product management, product owners, agile team representatives, and other key stakeholders collaborate to determine the need to resolve and the level of understanding for the defects being considered. Once the CDR model has been adopted and integrated into the operating model, a lightweight workshop can be facilitated as needed. For example, prior to a quarterly planning event, these workshops can be lightweight when teams work together during each quarter to maintain defect ranking scores as part of their more frequent intake and refinement sessions. These more frequent intake and refinement sessions also allow for triaging defects as they are reported or new information becomes available. With significant new information, you may need to reprioritize defects to be resolved and adjust the plan that was baselined for the quarter. New information might be additional customer feedback, a change in product strategy, or the availability of team members that significantly changes the level of understanding for a defect. The CDR model helps teams deliver defect resolutions that maximize benefits while consuming the least amount of capacity for those benefits. The CDR model gives preference to those defects that are well understood and can typically be resolved quickly. This avoids dwelling on defects that are not well understood and would cause a team to get stuck while other defects pile up and levels of dissatisfaction rise. The CDR model supports product development flow economics by ensuring the smallest amount of capacity is used to deliver the greatest levels of benefit and satisfaction possible. The CDR model supports flow by scoring those defects that can be resolved over those that might become an impediment to flow. We have discussed that the CDR model is a way to sequence defect resolution efforts based on delivering the greatest benefit and satisfaction in the shortest time for a backlog of defects. Additional videos in this series include, as a PM or PO, product manager or product owner, when should I use the CDR model? How to calculate the CDR model defect ranking score, using Excel to calculate the defect ranking score. Facilitating the CDR workshop. For more information, visit my website at michael-richardson.com. To implement the CDR model in your ALM tooling, contact me.